Hi, this is Evan from GoodBuy Comics. First off, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment on all the videos. We just started the YouTube channel at the beginning of the month, and this is the 6th video so far. So far, so good. I can tell you guys are enjoying the videos. They're fun for me, and I hope you're getting something out of it. I know I am. This is part 2 of Guess the Grade. So we sent in a large order of Silver and Golden Age books, 50 books in total. There were some really great gems. The first video uploaded was a review of those. We went over some of the grades. We went over what some of the possible grades were going to be. And now we actually have the books back. So the last video we just did was the first 25. This is the second 25. And we'll see how we did. I will say that the previous 25 that we went over, actually, I'm almost positive was a different grader at CGC. They were a little bit more lenient on the grades, which over the years I've been accustomed to. Since they've had, in the past year or so, when they had the new hirings, I feel like they've been a little bit more, depending on who the grader is, they've been a little bit more tight on the grades. So some of them don't work out as well as you hope, but it's just a learning curve for me to readjust what I think grades are going to be. So the first book that we have is, we'll just jump right into it. The first book that we have is it's called Grand Slam Aces. This is number 50 from 1946. Now, it is a large format book. It came back in a magazine size holder. You don't actually have to submit this as a magazine, so it's a comic book, but it comes back in a magazine. Basically, CGC will determine the size of your book. If it's small enough, it will go in the regular size holder. If it's slightly larger, it will possibly go in the inner sleeve, and if it's too big, it will go without the inner sleeve. If it's too big for that original holder, they'll upgrade it to the large magazine one. Now, for some reason, CGC has not upgraded their holders in all these years. I mean, maybe they did years ago. They are, no offense to CGC, I hope they hear this, they're absolute crap. They are just not good. They don't look good. They don't feel good. They feel flimsy. They still put the label on top here, which is what they did way back in the day with their original submissions. It's just literally glued onto the top. Over time, it comes off. I had that with a couple books where it just eventually came up. Yeah, I had to re-glue them on. It just does not feel good. It does not look good. I hope to God that they are going to upgrade these at some point. I know CBCS was going to jump into the magazine game, and I hope that their cases are nice, although I'm not in love with CBCS either. Also, the labels themselves don't fit very well in here, and so they're sort of like wobbly and floppy, and they do not look very good. The biggest disappointment for this would be having like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in this number 1 in this amazing condition, and then you got this crappy case. Anyway, that's my rant. Grand Slam Aces, very cool book. It's got Red Rider, Purple Rider, Red Rover. Just they're riding this gigantic turkey-looking eagle thing. Really cool back. You don't see books like this very often. I don't think there's any real reference to how much this book is worth. So I'm going to have to do some more research and come up with the price of what I think I can get out of it. But I have to imagine at a minimum, well, let's show the grade first. I had this coming back around a 4. It's lower grade. It's missing a little corner down there. And apologies for the glare. It's got a decent amount of wear, but a book like this is just so rare. It came back a 3, 4. It's basically the same. I'm happy with it. And again, I think this is probably at a minimum $500, possibly $1,000 to the right buyer. Maybe this goes to Heritage and we just see where it goes. Very, very cool, rare book. Displaying these things is a bit tough too. I will say though that I hope somebody, in a separate episode, we'll talk about investing and what I think the next couple of years are going to hold. I think magazines are going to start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it will just be a trickle-down effect. You've seen it with Nintendo Power. There's about to be a number 1, 9.8, that's going to go up for auction. All the electronics magazines, the carryover from the electronics industry, sports, the carryover from that. I think magazines are going to get big. Okay. Number 2. Now, this is a big boy book. This is All Tops Comics number 16 from 1949. The publisher is Fox Features. It is this awesome looking picture of, I'm not exactly sure who that is, but this jungle woman. She's fighting an octopus. It is just badass. The artist in this is Matt Baker. Now, I'm not a huge, I'm getting more and more into Golden Age. So forgive me. I'm sure there's people out there that know way more than I do about Golden Age artists and writers. Matt Baker, for my quick research, and I got to go back and learn a little bit more, did Phantom Lady and a bunch of romance. A lot of you have probably heard of Phantom Lady, which is in this. There's a reference to Phantom Lady there. But he's the first African-American, or one of the first comic book artists, and highly collectible, really beautiful, amazing artwork. All Top number 16. Again, this is a book that, in a high grade, which there aren't any or very few, could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Anything in a low grade like this, I have to imagine is probably going to be in the minimum of $2,000 range, but possibly more. You just don't see them very often. There's not a lot of them out there. Highly collectible. I had it coming back as a 3.0. It came back a 2.0 with cream to off-white pages, but 2, 3, for books this rare and this collectible, obviously I would prefer to have a 3, but it's not like I thought it was going to be a 5, so that's okay. Beautiful looking book, and I'm probably going to hold on to this one for a little bit. Next book. Another Golden Age. All right. We have Crimes by Women. I had this in a 3.0 range. It's got this funky, just a detective in the back, and the women are fighting, and she's in the red dress, and she's about to stab her. Oh, she's about to hit her with her shoe. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just a lot of funny things going on here. Again, this is Fox Feature. It's 1949. I had it as a 3.0. 2.5, very close. Cream to off-white pages. Beautiful looking book. Very iconic, especially for the time. Detective stories and books. And a lot of this, I think, is just started to come back. It kind of got lost. Detectives, Dick Tracy was big in the 90s. I think that newer readers sort of got fixated on all the superhero books, and newer collectors, and the Marvel movies really pushed that. But what got forgotten was the Westerns and the detectives and the horror. The horror seems to be the first that's coming back and making a big splash. The horror books have been huge, especially because Marvel's coming out with Werewolf by Night and Dracula and Blade and everything else. So that kickstarted it, but now we're starting to see that people are getting back into the detective books if you can afford them. They're very expensive. Golden Age anyway. And also the Western books, and a nice carryover book to get you started could be Ghost Rider, which was an original Western, and then there's all these variants from there, and then you start to get into some of the other Western books. That Ghost Rider, previous to the motorcycle, rode a horse. Okay, and I have a book in here for that as well. All right, this is Batman 186. I had this coming back at really high grade. Now, this is the first appearance of Gaggy the Clown. And that's his sidekick, the Joker's sidekick. It's a ridiculous cover, but it's a first appearance. And it was a beautiful looking. I had really high hopes for it. Let's see how we did. 9.2, and I came back in 8.5. Now, it would be great to have a 9 in front of that. Truthfully, though, an 8.5 is a very respectable grade, and it's really not that far off. I'm sure all of you are aware, but it goes 8.0, 8.5, 9.0, 9.2, 9.4. After the 9 is 0.2 increments. So this is only a 0.5. It's only one grade off of being in the 9 upper tiers. But it always helps with resale purposes when you get it up into a 9 on a high value book to have a 9 in front of it. Still very happy with that. Still a great book to own. This is Amazing Adventures. We've talked about these. These are either return dates or received by dates on there. I had this as a high grade. This is Inhumans and Black Widow. I think my buddy has a signed version of this with Jack Kirby on the inside. Jack Kirby is a really hard to get autograph. Never signed on the covers, always on the inside. So check your old books. Make sure almost all the old signatures are on the inside. The only person that started doing it on the outside was Stan Lee at some point, and previous to that, all the artists, even I have a bunch of Todd McFarlane's that are signed on the inside that are very early. That's only a recent thing, and they might start going back into that. I hear a lot of people complaining that they're just ruining the books at this point. But it's personal preference. Anyway, always check your books, open them up, check the first page, make sure it's not a double cover, make sure there's no Mark Jewelers insert in there. Do your homework when you buy a collection. I had this coming back in 9.2, came back in 9. Very, very close. This book is on the teetering edge. So the modern books are cheap. They're like $20 a book to get sent in and back. You got shipping costs in there, etc. These, I am not waiting 6 months for them, because the turnaround time, if you just do regular, is like 6 months. If you do the Express, though, which adds another $15, that ends up being like $40 a book. And some books, if they're not valuable enough, are right on the edge of whether it was worth submitting or not. And you have to get the right grade for it. So if I thought this was going to be a 9.2, 9.4, and it comes back a 9, it's starting to be, I don't know. I don't think I'll be breaking even on it, but it would be certainly helpful and worth the money to make sure that I'm getting a book that's worth at least $200. Okay, we have Spider-Man 149. This is the first appearance of Spider-Man clone, which has been picking up. Ben Reilly ends up becoming the Spider-Man clone. This is from 1975. Oh, that's interesting. I might have mistakenly paid for a book that I wasn't supposed to. This could have gone for modern. Anything 1975 and beyond should be, I wonder what it says on the inside cover. That's so weird. Anything from 1975 and beyond should be modern, and it's half the price. Anything before 1975 has to go economy. So I could have saved a few bucks on this. This I can see as I'm looking at it in the light that I think it got a little bit of a crunched corner on the back here, which I do not believe was there. Sometimes it happens in shipping or when they're unpacking it. I'll have to go back and look at my photos. I had it coming back in 9.0 and not surprisingly came back as 7.5. Had I known this was going to be a 7.5, I probably would not have submitted it. Chances are I probably will not crack this. I see a few little tiny spine ticks here and there. They're very tiny. I don't disagree with the grade, although probably could have squeaked out in 8 or so, but it is what it is. Still a key book, though, so I'll be able to resell it, just not for as much as I thought. This one is Submariner number 39. This is going to be for my personal collection. I have a big love for Submariner. Great all-time character, early Marvel superhero or enemy. And depending on how you look at it, he was the antagonist in Black Panther 2. And I thought he was the best part of the movie, way better than Shuri or Riri Williams. But these early Submariners are crazy hard to get, super expensive. What got me into Submariner was I got lucky when I first started getting back into collecting Silver Age books, and I was lucky enough to buy about 50 copies of Submariner 1, and I just fell in love. And I have a few really early ones like this, but this is a great pickup. Somebody in the city contacted me, and they literally had Submariner, this one, and a Young Men, which I'll show you coming up. And that was it for Silver Age. Everything else was 90s garbage. But I was very happy. They were happy. I helped them out with some money for the holidays, and win-win. This I had coming back as a 5.0. Came back a 5.0. Off-white pages. This has got a Namora appearance in it. He's fighting the Frogmen. It's from 1955, and it's an Atlas Comics, which eventually becomes Marvel. This is after the Comics Code, so it's got that humongous Comics Code logo on the top there. Beautiful looking book. Very happy with it. Okay, speaking of which, we have Young Men, number 27. Really cool cover here. I think the coolest thing is actually not the Human Torch, but this ghost face looking guy in the back there that's hypnotizing everybody. Sleep Toro. This is actually Toro the Human Torch, I guess. I think Toro was, I'm trying to think here now. Okay, so no, Toro is the younger one. That's Toro. That's Human Torch. Original Human Torch was a android. I don't know the deal on Toro, but not the same as the modern day Human Torch. I'm seeing that some of the pressing on this sort of regressed. It's a little bit wavy on the back, meaning that through temperature transitions between New Jersey and Florida at CGC, sometimes, you know, the work that you do on it can regress, go back, because it's paper, it's got fibers in it, it's going to react to temperatures. Not much you can really do about that except just repressing it and repressing it. Either way, it's in the slab. It looks nice. It's a lower grade. I know it's going to be a lower grade. I had it coming around a 3. You know, I'm not looking too close at these really low grades because, you know, 2.5 or a 2 or a 3 or a 3.5, it's a low grading, and sometimes it's just where the grader is going to put it. It used to be that the 3.5 was like a catch-all for all this low grade stuff, and anything below that really had to be bad. But if it presented good enough, it would get a 3.5. I think that CGC has, in the past couple years, they've made it where they check off, and they have these systems, and you know, the graders are, a lot of them are newer, or they're just really going by the book on every single last thing. And I feel like they used to have a little bit more leeway where they would, it looks and appears like a 3 or a 3.5. I could be wrong on that, but that's my impression. Anyway, I had it around a 3.5, came back at 2. Still really cool, rare book. This I might be willing to let go. I'm not a huge Human Torch fan, but it is Young Men number 27, Atlas Comics, 1954. Oh, you know what? This is actually a key issue. This is Death of the Red Skull. Now, obviously, he didn't die, or they didn't kill him off in the comics. I'm going to look at this more. Again, I think at minimum this is a $500 book. I don't remember off the top of my head. Possibly quite more. Okay, talking about Submariner, we have Submariner number 69. This is an epic cover of him fighting Spider-Man. This is right after number 68, where she got his new outfit with the webbing under his arms there, and the gold belt, and the long blue pants. Pretty cool outfit, actually, which obviously they changed for the movie. But any of these early battles with Spider-Man always command a premium, because there's just, Spider-Man is the biggest, always easiest to sell. This is also, I think, in number 68 is where they might have changed it to the Savage Submariner. I'm not totally sure about that, but I believe so. Number 69 from 1974, so this did have to go economy. And let's see, what else we got here? Yeah, so I had this coming back in 9.4, came back in 9.2. 9.2 white pages. It's a nice book. Okay, this is a cool one. This is Major in a Pack, the Space Ace number 1. Now, Major in a Pack is a food supplement. This is like a freebie book that they gave out. Now, you can imagine that if this had an Atlas logo on it, or Marvel, or DC, any of the early publishers, this book would be worth thousands of dollars. Because it's just a supplement book, supplement for a supplement. It's made by Magazine Enterprises from 1951. It's not super valuable. Now, the artwork on it is amazing. You got the Space Ace, and he looks like Buck Rogers, and he's on the moon, and he's fighting a bad guy, and it is just very cool. It's number 1. It's a thick book. I had high expectations for the grade on this. I thought it was a 9.2 plus. I'm not sure where I went wrong, really, quite honestly. I'm going to have to look closer at the notes. It's not expensive. You can find them on eBay for like $20. But slabbed, it looks really cool. Space Ace, Major in a Pack, 9.2, and it came back a 7.5. I'm going to have to look closer at this. I don't see anything that warrants a 7.5 out of this. I think this is really high grade. I'm not even sure if there's any on the census. Maybe a few. But cool book. Okay, this is something different. So I was, this is Marvel Mystery Comics number 61. It took me a while to figure this out. I was looking through some of my coverless books that I had purchased, and inside I have a, what book is it? Oh, it's a I'm not drawing a blank. Anyway, inside I'm flipping through the book and there's a loose page and I'm just thinking, oh, it's just a loose page that fell out from the rest of them. Turns out it was just one loose spread from another comic that was sitting in the middle of that one. And I was excited about that, but normally I wouldn't really care too much, but it's either the intro spread or one of the spreads for one of the storylines in between it. If this was the actual comic book, Marvel Mystery Comics, in any grade, it's hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. But this is a really cool one. If you just send a page or a spread, CGC will grade it. There's really no guessing here. I just wanted to see if anybody knows what was going to get. It's going to get a page, right? So you could do this with like, if you had Spider-Man 1 or Action Comics #1, and those pages could be, if it's a really great picture here, it could be thousands of dollars. Some of them, let's just say you had Amazing Fantasy 15 and somebody split them up into individual pages. It could be like $500 a page, or some of them could be thousands of dollars a page, especially the splash page. This took a while to figure out which one this was because there's the information is on the inside of the cover on a lot of these early books. But nonetheless, this is a Miss America on the front, which is really awesome. And it's too bad because I don't think this is Schomburg on the inside, but it was a Schomburg cover, which is really cool. Auto binder story, Alex Schomburg cover. Now, they said, this is Timely Comics from 1945. They said this is the first wrap only. I'm not sold that this is actually the first wrap. It might be. I'm not really sure. But typically in these old comic books, they had 4 or 5 stories in there, and so it's the first wrap from that story. It may be the first one, it may not be. I couldn't find any real reference. Maybe CGC has it. I doubt it. They probably just went with first wrap. On the back, though, which is even cooler, is Submariner. And so there was a Submariner story and there was a Miss America story. So, Submariner, when they first came out, they drew him like this bullet head submarine looking guy, right? He's got this like V-looking face there. And that's how he was drawn in the beginning. Really, really cool. If you look, I think that they sort of went along the lines of, like, he's a submarine. So if you look at some of the early artwork, his head is sort of like a shark or a submarine going through the water. And it's very different. They definitely changed the way that he looked over time. Certainly hasn't been drawn like that in a very long time. But I figured that if I decide to sell this, I could probably get $100, $200 for it. It's just really cool. Nice piece of history. Okay, another golden age, Crime Patrol. Now, this is EC Comics from 1949. EC Comics, everybody knows for their horror books, Tales of the Crypt. Very, very valuable. They also did all kinds of other Crime Patrol, but you can usually pick out an EC book by, well, obviously the little EC there, but a lot of them had this this little title right there, and definitely all the horror ones had pictures down the side. It was a very iconic style that they were doing. This is Crime Patrol from 1949. Let's see if there's any famous artists here. Al Feldstein and Dick Krause. Johnny. So the art is Johnny Craig right there. Just a really cool black cover. I mean, the glare is kind of killing us here, but it looks beautiful. This guy's got this grungy face going on. And I had this coming back as a 3. Came back as a 2.5. Cream to off-white pages. I might be willing to let this one go, but it is awesome. Man, I wish every collection that I bought was Golden Age. We'll get there. Okay, Submariner, number 50. This is the first appearance of Namorita. And that is the Submariner's cousin, I think? Or I don't know, niece? I'm drawing a blank. But this book had some nice little heat on it for a while. Started to go up. Now, I thought this was going to grade a little bit higher. I had it as around an 8. It came back as a 6.0. I think the problem is that it was the whiteness of it. It was just discolored. It had gotten, the whites are just not bright. I think that's a big contributing factor here. Otherwise, it's pretty sharp. So I'm surprised that it didn't get at least a 7 or a 7.5. But yeah, Too bad. Still a nice book. Still worth some money. I'll do just fine on it. I probably got it within a collection of other books. Amazing Spider-Man 131. So you notice so far, basically everything that I've shown has been either a point or a point and a half below where I thought it was going to be. You know, I'll attribute some of that to myself or some to the grader. 131, 1974. This is where Doc Ock is trying to marry Aunt May. I had this as a kid. Mine was beat to hell. I was kind of happy to find a really high grade of it. I had it as around a 7. Came back as an 8.5. Finally, a win. 8.5 white pages. Not super expensive, but a cool book. Amazing Spider-Man, number 80, Early Chameleon, 1970. I had this as a 9.2. Came back as a 9.0, white pages. Cool cover. Stan Lee's story. John Romita cover. Okay. This is Weird Mystery Tales, number 1. I like horror. I like these mystery tales or, you know, stuff that came from like Sandman line. They're just really cool. Now, this is 1972. This is the first appearance of Destiny. I feel like this is a DC books. If you're looking at Key Collector, a lot of the DC books are finally starting to pick up. Has to do with a lot of the news we're hearing for the movies and the reboots. You know, Lobo is going to kickstart this all, I think. They're going to be revamping Superman, the JLA, and I have high hopes. Sandman did really well, which is great. I think if you haven't been investing in DC books, early ones, not necessarily the newer stuff, but early key DC issues have been on the cheap for a long time. You can pick up, especially the Silver Age stuff, you can pick up, you know, the first appearance of Scarecrow. Obviously, like Poison Ivy and stuff like that is going to be expensive, but still underpriced versus Marvel. So don't sleep on some of these DC books. Anyway, I had this as a 9. It came back a 7.5. I definitively would not have sent this off if it was going to come back a 7.5. Very cool. Still worth it. It's fine, but I would have saved my money. Sorry, guys. I'm having a bad allergy day here. Another book that I feel is greatly undervalued. Now, it's not the first appearance of Nick Fury, Sergeant Fury. It's the first appearance of Nick Fury as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the eye patch. I think that Nick Fury is an undervalued book. He is a key name that everybody knows. He's in the movies, although, albeit that's Nick Fury from the alternate universe. I think this book has been undervalued for a very long time. You can pick up a nice mid-high grade for a couple $100. Nonetheless, I had this sitting in my collection here. I wasn't being very active of trying to sell it. It looks nicer in a slab. It's a nice key entry book. I had it as a 3.0. It came back a 3.5. That's a win. You know, it's probably, if somebody wants to get this, it's probably, I don't even know, $150, $200, something like that. It's not bad. It also it's going to also have this Doctor Strange story in here as well, I believe. Great book. This is another one that has been on the Key Collector top list. Now, this is the first appearance of Etrigan the Demon, number 1 from 1972. In the previous video, I was talking about the paper being different. I saw some issues with the Swamp Thing. It's a glossier paper. It's very glossy, which I think leads to more spine ticks. I actually pressed one of these and the staple popped on it. Not this one. The staple popped on it. Not from pressure, just, I don't know. It's different than the rest of them. So, learning lesson. Also, these printer creases are quite common on these DC books, where I'm never going to be able to get this to show, but basically there's these printer creases on the covers that, you know, the paper was creased. It wasn't totally flat. The ink went on top of it. The gloss went on top of it. It dried, and that's that. Will it stop you from getting a 9.8? Probably, but CGC shouldn't be dinging you too bad as long as it's not horrible. I had this as a 7. Came back a 7.5, off-white to white pages, a few $100. Nice book to invest in. Great story. And it's Jack Kirby as well. I also have a second one here. You know, this came from the same collection. It's got the received or return date. 7, came back a 6. So good on one, not on the other, but a 6, 7, it's probably around, I don't know, $200, maybe a little bit more, $300. I sold a couple of those raw when I first got those because I think I picked up maybe 5 or 6 of them at the same time. Phantom Stranger, again, same collection, return or receive date on there. I thought this was going to be a very high grade. It looks gorgeous, and you can tell that I'm leading up to it didn't get a 9.0, but it got an 8.5. Now, again, going back to the, almost a 9, it's very close. It looks beautiful. Could another grader have given it a 9? Could they have given it a 9.2? Yeah, absolutely. Could they have given it a 9.4? Maybe. But it does have a little tiny color break. So I think probably a 9 would have been nice on this, but 8.5 is perfectly fine. Submariner number 3. This is appearance of Triton and Plant Man. Early Submariner. 8.0. I think Submariner in the MCU is going to be there for a while throughout a bunch of movies. We'll see how he gets involved in there, but I can't imagine them not having that actor for the next, whatever, Huerta, I think his name is, for the next bunch of movies. He was just phenomenal. Number 3, I think this probably would have gotten a higher grade. It does have a slight water stain in the back. I wasn't sure what they were going to do on that. I probably should have taken the time and gotten that out of there. Number 3, I had it as an 8. Came back a 6.5, probably because of that little water stain. So that's on me for rushing through things. This one I've had in my collection for a very long time. I gave it a nice press. It's Doctor Strange 171. Now, it is a slight key issue because Dormammu is on the back panel as a cameo. It goes 169 is where they did the reboot. And from Strange Tales to Doctor Strange, that's the big issue. And then this is 2 issues later. I had this as a 9. Came back a 8.0. I can kind of see that the press that I gave it, I think there was a little tiny reader's fold there, and I think a little bit of it regressed. But it's okay. It's still very, very nice. 8.0 white pages. First cameo of Dormammu. Dormammu's the character that trapped Doctor Strange trapped him in the Doctor Strange movie, where he gets all his dark powers from. All right, Iron Man number 3. Happy Hogan becomes the Freak. And it says letters from Walt Simonson and Bob Gale. Iron Man number 3, I've been sitting staring at this book in my collection for years. It's got a date stamp, but I didn't submit it or do anything because it had a tiny little tape pull there. But prices have gone up in the previous couple years on Iron Man early issues. It's high grade. If that little tape pull wasn't there, I think this would have been above a 9. I had this as an 8.5. It came back an 8 off-white pages. It's very nice. I'm sure I'll do fine on it, especially considering that when I purchased it, it was probably $10, $15. So I'll be good on that. Here we have Thor number 169, The Origin of Galactus. Let's see. Got that really cool cover. I had this as a 5.0. Did I get a win? Came back a 5.5. This is another one that's just been sort of sitting around for a while. I haven't been very proactive in trying to sell it. I will now. 5.5 is probably $200 or more, just off the top of my head. All right, and then last but not least, we have Knight Rider number 1 from 1974. So this says, I've talked about this in some of my previous videos. This is Silver Age Ghost Rider's name changed to Knight Rider. So to avoid confusion, because they had just come out with Ghost Rider on the motorcycle, right? So we have Knight Rider here, Phantom Rider, Ghost Rider, Knight Rider, and beautiful book. I think I already have, I'm trying to remember if this is the one that I have, or I might have another one of this as well. But I love Ghost Rider. I just picked up a raw copy of Ghost Rider number 1 here that I'll get slabbed. I'm working on a run of it. So I got Ghost Rider number 1, Knight Rider number 1. But I had this as a 6.5, and it came back a 6.5. So that's awesome. Really, really cool character. So that's it for today, guys. Please subscribe, please follow, please comment. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to know what you guys are collecting. I'm on Whatnot a couple times a week. I'm on eBay, GoodBuy_comics, Instagram. Please share, and happy hunting to everybody. You can also follow on Facebook. There's a group called Tales of the Hunt that I created that's about the stories about finding these awesome collections and just sharing those stories for anybody that's a hunter out there. That doesn't even have to be comics. It could be cards, it could be comics, it could be stamps. I don't care. I just love hearing the stories of how we're all searching for history and preserving it. It's something that makes this industry just so great. It's not all about making money and flipping. And Happy New Year to everybody. So I hope to see you soon, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.